Welcome to Let's Talk Games, episode 48, version 2.0, because we're starting this one again.
12
my
hours
name is
later than
Dan.
last time.
Yeah. And then in the middle, Mr. Power Outage, Uncle Chunt. How are you, sir?
Yeah, look, just balancing through life's little tribulations and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, USB tethered. I have that happening at least, and my power is on, so and I have a coffee. Can't complain too much, can I?
And Jamie, your day is almost done. How are you?
First time we tried to do this, my day was just starting, and then now it's nearly finished. I'm okay. I'm not as stressed as when you spoke to me earlier.
No, that's good. Well, we're going to talk about a few things today, mainly some PlayStation news and some Anthem news. But first, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. And I'll start because when we spoke about this yesterday, it's basically the same. I played a little bit of 2K. I played some Control, which I got to the first section. I was trying to listen to podcasts at the same time, it just wasn't working, so I switched off Control. I played some Destruction All Stars because it's actually quite it's quite liberating being able to go around and hit people with cars, and it does really handle well. But then after we failed this podcast last night, it was still early enough that I wasn't ready for bed. And I'm like, you know what? Jamie got me to download that freaking Outriders demo. I tried to get onto it the other day, and the servers weren't up or something. And I was like, I'll just try it now. So I tried it, played it for a good hour, and that game is pretty good. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. I messaged you guys last night about it. It's Mass Effect and Gears cross.
Nice.
I really like how it handles like the shooting aspect of it. Story, I'm not sure where it's going yet, and the characters, nothing's really stood out so far, but they're kind of just setting up the world and setting up the lore, which I have some vague interest in. So I will definitely finish the demo, but I'm only into the world 2, which is not a spoiler. It's just how they name them. But yeah, I will say there's a turning point that happens during the demo, and I kind of liked where we were before the turn. So hopefully the new section gives me something to look at a little bit more. But I'll move on to Uncle Chunt. How are you, sir? Tell us what you've been playing.
Oh, look, man, I've been living in Dragon Ball World for all week after work. Man, I can't wait to go back. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to have another coffee and my first bowl of porridge for the day. And I'm going to watch the last disc of these Dragon Ball Super series. It's just been amazing. I've played Mario 3D World. Cool, there's my game that I've played. But what I've really been doing with my spare time is watching this 80-man battle royale in this like outer world place on Dragon Ball Super, and it's just been this epic like 8-disc fight. It's just I've been enjoying it so much. And yeah, anyone that hasn't watched Dragon Ball Super, it starts really slow, but really just stick with it, man. And it's a lot of fun. I can't wait for whatever they do next with this series. But yeah, I'll probably download and install Dragon Ball Fighters again, because now I understand what all the characters are. Because there's all these characters in that game I don't recognize and I wasn't really familiar with, and now I get it and I know who they are. So I'll probably go through that again and enjoy it. But yep, go for it. That's all I've done.
All right, Jamie, during your costume change, tell us about your gaming habits of the week.
Yeah, got a bit warm. I can't remember where I said I started this week. A lot's happened playing video games. Can someone remind me what I told you I've been playing earlier on? Oh, I started at the end, didn't I? That was right, because I played Man-Eater. It's about sharks. It still has crates in it that you have to loot to get shark gear, which I find utterly video game and hilarious. And enjoy munching down humans, especially when humans are driving you insane. It's an alright game. I said to you guys earlier, when we first tried to record this, I don't see myself playing it to the end at all. just if I'm feeling frustrated and want to pretend to be Baby Shark for a minute and just munch down some Kit Kat looking humans, just go for it and
It's
do
a
that.
typical checkbox game, isn't it? Like it's just it tells you to do this one thing and you just eventually just go wander around.
Yeah, you just go wandering about, just chewing different fish and turtles and stuff. It's pretty weird video game. I played a bunch more Destiny because such is life, Destiny exists, Jamie plays it. And I hit the soft cap for the season on one of my characters. I cannot be bothered to do all three. The desire to play any more of this season kind of faded away as I kind of hit that arbitrary number. I will go back and do some of the exotic quests that I've missed from last season, because the good thing about this year of Destiny, which Chunt, I know wound you up last year, was when seasons finished, that content disappeared. This year they're not doing that. The content will remain playable throughout the entire year, which is really good. So you don't miss exotic quests. Like if you come back to it after a few months. I couldn't hold that in anymore.
Oh, bless you, sir.
Thanks. Just came out of nowhere. Yeah, so the exotic quests still exist, which is really, really good. And I apologise that I don't have an accessible mute button to delay that sneeze. Just while we're on Destiny as well, that got a delay this week. The Witch Queen is being delayed till Q1 of 2022. Bungie's logic behind this was COVID, etc. They need more time. They want to make it as perfect as they can. Apparently, we're hitting a very pivotal story impasse, and everything that we do in Witch Queen, the characters we meet, or the kind of coming together of the characters in this DLC, is going to propel the narrative to the end of this saga. So they are actually really starting to talk about Destiny as a kind of an MCU type thing, which, as somebody who's super connected to it, I'm quite excited for. They've also said that this saga, which was supposed to be Beyond Light, Witch Queen, and Lightfall, they're going to have to add a 4th chapter to the end of it, a previously unannounced chapter, to tell the story the way they want. So it sounds like they're getting some ducks in a row over at Bungie, which is pretty cool. And I don't mind waiting an extra few months to play the expansion if it means that the developers get the time to do it. So that's pretty cool. And Outriders, I've played through the whole demo. I haven't done the side missions, just kind of the story prologue that you get to do. I agree with you, read the Gears stuff, Dan. I actually felt a little bit Halo Combat Evolved vibes, like Halo 1 vibes when you first go into the demo. I was like, this feels familiar in all the right ways. And my only complaint so far, having finished the story portion, the story, I'm actually keen to see where it goes. I am interested. They've kind of got me on the hook a bit. I'm really interested to see what they do with the gear system. So far, so Destiny. It's literally Destiny's loot game, which is not a bad thing for me. The powers, Dan, did you get any powers when you were playing?
No, I just got my class.
You don't.
I just got my class first.
Right. So when you select your class, the next thing you do is you obviously go mowing people down with those abilities. Which one did you pick out of interest?
Is it the Techno?
Oh, fuck's sake, we picked the same one. Technomancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually, having played that, I was like, yeah, this is my kind of play style, but I also want to try the others. I am actually keen to try the others, and they do explicitly say to you, look,
the blue one. I can't remember because
it's the same one that we picked. You don't have to do the whole kind of entry mission. If you roll another character, you can start from that point and just select which one you want to go. So I'm going to have a play around with the other classes and see what feels good. I'm pretty sure that Chunt's class, if and when he eventually gets to it, will be a Devastator.
Yeah. Is that the one on the right? Is that the yellow one?
It's the Titan class, basically.
Yeah.
Nice.
Tanky, hard as nails, up close damage kind of character, which I know is Chunt's vibes from our Destiny sessions. So I really like it. It does feel identical to Chunt. You're gonna love it. I have full faith that this 100%. Is right up your alley. Completely. Awesome. It feels like you're playing Gears, and some of the world scenarios that are going on and the storms and stuff, it's very reminiscent of Gears. And kind of there's a bit of dude bro attitude in it as well, actually. I noticed. I don't know if it's just because it's soldiers and
a little.
There's a good bit of it.
Yeah, you played more.
Yeah. There's a lot of holy fuck. Like they don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like in the tone of the dialogue and stuff. So Yeah, I think you should get to that, John, and let us know what you think. I'm happy to run through it again with you if you want to at some point before I sleep or over the weekend. But we can all play together. That's another thing as well. Total crossplay, which I find genius. But enough about Outriders. We've spent over 10 minutes talking about what we've played. So back to you, Dan.
Well, the main topic of the week. Sony had some news this week, and we're going to start with the state of play. I'm going to throw it over to Chunt to begin with. Chunt, were you disappointed that Stray, the cat game, was not there? And what were your overall thoughts?
Oh, you read me like a book. I'm just so hardly disappointed that game is not even on anyone's radar. And, I thought that would be the front and center piece of the whole thing. And, what's the world coming to? No, look, I actually quite relatively enjoyed what they showed. It's not my kind of wheelhouse, but for what they were showing on offer, it's pretty cool. I don't know what else I expected. I kind of figured that there's not going to be anything huge here because of everything that's been going on and all the delays happening. And, they've already said they've delayed some of their main games into 2022 and just focusing on releasing their previous titles on PC. And so I kind of went in there going, all right, I don't expect anything huge this time. But my main takeaway was the Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff. I just, am I ever going to get that game on Xbox? Like, they've obviously been working on the PS5 version and enhancing that and adding DLC for it. And, I think the DLC is available for PS4 as well, I would assume. That'd be logical. But, there's a theory going around online that the release date, the June release date for that DLC content could be when that's the Xbox coming. Exclusivity.
Come back to us, Chunt. Come back. You break it up.
Am I breaking up? Am I?
We got as far as you saying June, and then you started to go all Robotron on. So.
Oh, yeah. So the June release date, I think that's when they're gonna maybe put it out on Xbox, because the April exclusivity will be up by then, and that's just the denial world that I'm living in to console myself to the fact that maybe I might actually get this on Xbox so I can play it. But otherwise, the other announcements is like, cool. Nothing really turned my dial.
Yeah. Well, and following on from that, last night after we stopped here, we learnt that Final Fantasy VII's coming to the PlayStation Plus collection. So it's like, so that was I didn't expect that. But Jamie, these events are normally about expectations. They told us there was going to be 10 games with deep dives. Did it meet your expectations? Were you disappointed?
No.
Knowing I already know your answer.
No, it did not meet my expectations. There was a severe lack of Horizon. There was a severe lack of anything to really get excited about. Kena Bridge of Spirits looks really, really good. I think that was the best thing they showed off. Returnal actually interests me now. But they managed to turn me there because I was like, not for me. But that demo that they showed gave me very Hades vibes. The constantly the procedurally generated world. It changes every time you go back in, which I'm assuming means when you hit those power-up lockers, you generate different power-ups every time you play through. Very roguelike type gameplay. But from a shooty bang bangs perspective, so yeah, I'm all about that. Seems quite cool. It's not something that I imagine I'll jump in anywhere near day one. Again, probably just wait for that to come to the PlayStation Plus library, as I've rightfully done with Final Fantasy VII. I'm very pleased that I did not purchase that game. And Chunt, yes, I feel your pain. There was nothing else there that I actually can point to and say, oh, that got me excited. The Final Fantasy stuff looks cool. I'm nowhere near as invested in it as Chunt is. I will play through it because it's there at no additional cost. And it does look really cool. Whether I wait for the PlayStation 5 patch for that, because anybody who has 7 just gets the upgrade, right? So maybe it makes sense to do that.
Looks insane.
So yeah, fingers crossed for those things, but largely disappointed, Daniel. What about yourself?
I think following, like going into, we spoke about last week with the Nintendo Direct, how I was just, everyone is expecting Breath of the Wild and all this big stuff, and I'm like, it's not going to be that. Like, it's just going to be, a couple of ports announcements and a couple of new games, which might look interesting, might not to people. So I think I was going into State of Play kind of with the same thought process. I probably did expect maybe a Horizon date, but as even the first maybe 3 or 4 games got released, I could tell that this is all release dates that are. I mean, I think there was a couple of August release dates, but most of it is trying to just push games that are coming out in April or June or even March. So I was like, I think Horizon's further on than that, so I don't think they're going to even put it out there for people to theorize about. But the one thing I just noted was the theory is in an E3 conference is that you want to walk away like with maybe 3 games that you want. With these state of plays, I feel like because it's a smaller sample size, you're kind of wanting at least one game that you want. But the variety of games that were in there to try and appeal to the most people, I feel, was really good. Like you have Final Fantasy as a JRPG, or Deathloop as a first-person shooter, or Returnal as a roguelike. You had a couple of platformers in there, like Solar Ash, and the Freddy's Security Breach one, like a horror game. Like they're kind of just trying to cover as much as they really can. So I appreciated that. But moving on to the next part, like what were your top games, Chunt? Did any really stick out to you at all?
Not really. Hey, like that Kena, or however you say it, looks interesting and cool. Obviously Final Fantasy, but that Freddy's Security Breach thing, I do wonder if that game will have the same feel as the actual games that have come out and made that series popular, because what made that game so popular is because you're stuck in one location and you're just viewing different security screens and trying to stop them from coming to you for that night. And it's the same premise on every other game. Like when you're in the bedroom on one of the latest ones in this series, where you're playing as a child in a bedroom, and there's a cupboard there and a door to the hallway and a window, and you got to kind of stop them from coming in, kind of thing. So it's a very claustrophobic, scary experience. I've never played them, but I've watched enough videos and theories videos on the series and stuff to understand it, to know that I'm not going to play that shit because I hate jump scares. And I just wonder if this game is going to have the same appeal and the same kind of feeling of impending doom where you're able to just freely roam this complex and they're out and about and you can actually see them coming at you. And even when I was watching that trailer, I was like, this doesn't feel the same. And I'm not a massive fan of that series, but just watching it alone, I'm like, I don't get the same sense, and I don't get it. It's not like Outlast, where I played that for like 20 minutes and noped right out of that shit, because I was like, oh my God, no, I'm good, thanks. And that was the same thing. You could freely run around in this place, in this story, and I had that feeling. But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and that's what stood out to me the most on practically everything else that they showed besides Final Fantasy. I didn't really see much else that kind of made me go, yeah, I want that. I mean, you've got that Oddworld game coming to PS Plus as well, right? So PS Plus is seeming like a good deal coming up.
I don't think it's PS Plus. I think you can upgrade it for free if you have PS Plus from PS4 to PS5. Well,
confusing.
You guys have already talked about Return. That gameplay sold me as well, but Saifu, the hallway martial arts game, really stood out to me. I think.
No, it's Dan's turn to freeze.
Oh, it's Discord. It's not me.
Nah, gone. I'll talk about that for a minute. We can go to me while Dan's face stays frozen.
I'm back. Sorry. I was like, it's Chunt frozen again. I went, no, James frozen. Wait, I might be the one frozen.
Yeah, it was you that was doing the freezing. So
Anyway,
yeah, you were talking about corridor fires.
Yeah, corridor martial arts game. I just think that will be so much fun to play through. It looked absolutely wicked, like the art style and the aging of the character throughout. I thought that was awesome. What I thought we could do when these events pop up, we can either put them down as this should have been like an event, like an E3 event, an online video like this one was, or just a Twitter/blog post of announcements. Where do you think this sat? Do you think this should have just been a bunch of blog posts, or do you think it was right where it was, or do you wanted it to be an event? Do you want it to be bigger?
Absolutely a blog post.
Yeah, I think Final Fantasy's Twitter did a lot better job hyping up to the direct crowd, because I went straight to Twitter, as Jamie said after it was finished. He's like, well, straight to Twitter, let's have a look. And I went there, and my feed was going insane for the Final Fantasy VII stuff and the extra games that they didn't show in that trailer. There's 2 other Final Fantasy VII related games in that world, and I was like, holy crap, like there's just more content here that they just didn't show. Like, I don't understand why they didn't add that in. But yeah, totally, man. I don't think this was totally required. But in saying that, like, I like this. I like getting these kind of videos. Something, just a little treat. Not everything has to fucking like change my world. Every time something is announced, I don't need everything to kind of reset and shatter my expectations. I just like to, here's a little presentation of here's things that we want to show you. I like that. That's fine. And a lot of the Nintendo Directs and Pokemon Directs are like that, even though they are frequently disappointing. I like that they're there. But whatever. That's just my opinion.
Yep, should have been a blog post. Absolutely should have been a blog post. The Final Fantasy stuff, I think, could probably have stood to be its own like YouTube trailer from them. Like, a 4-minute trailer about what they're doing with Final Fantasy. Yeah, they could have all just been put out, maybe one or 2 a week for the next few weeks, a few of these trailers, just to let people know that this stuff's coming. It felt pointless.
I probably agree. Maybe the Deathloop and Final Fantasy stuff could have been blog post stuff, because it's mostly stuff we've seen. But I did appreciate the fact that each of these games got like their little 3 minutes of, we're showing you how this game plays. Like, this is what you're going to get when you get the game, and I really appreciated that aspect of it. Moving on to the last bit of Sony news for the week, that I'm kind of throwing all these in together because they happened pretty much all on the same day. PlayStation announced that their Play at Home is coming back this year. So last year they released the Nathan Drake Uncharted Collection and Journey for free. This year it's going from March extending through June, and they're starting off in March with the Ratchet & Clank 2016 game. PlayStation VR2 was announced. That shows you how long in the week ago it was. Days Gone is coming to PC, and Gran Turismo was delayed until next year. Chunt, I'm going to go to you again.
Yep.
Any of these particular stories stand out to you?
Yeah, just to clarify, that's PSVR2, not Vita 2. It's just our Australian accent. Even I thought you said Vita 2, and I was like, what? So yeah, PSVR 2, that's pretty exciting. I do have the prospect of maybe jumping in on this generation when I eventually get my PS5 sorted out, when the rest of the world is able to get theirs as well. So that's exciting. It's good to see that they're actually not abandoning it. That they dropped the Vita. Speaking of, I would love to see that come back. That Vita 2. I think that Vita hardware was pretty exceptional for the time, and I think it still relatively holds up, even though the power is not really there anymore. But Sony are good with doing that. The hardware that they do is appealing, and they cater to niches. So and their fan base like eats it up. So I'm excited that they're still leaning into VR, and it is a niche. Like, it's not anywhere near as big as their console market or the handheld market, but kudos all the same. But yeah, I've forgotten what the other bloody topics were. I mean, that's the one that stood out to me the most. I'm excited about. So I'm just going to stop there.
Jamie, you're probably the most rounded VR player here in terms of being able to try out a lot of different stuff.
Yep.
It is only coming. They did talk about it's coming with a singular cord, rather it's not wireless, and taking advantage of DualSense stuff in the new controllers or whatever they're going to release with it. What are your thoughts on it?
The PSVR stuff, I think the reason that they're keeping it corded is probably one, so it does integrate properly with the DualSense. It's feeding through the PS5, and that's built in tandem with the DualSense and its features. It's not like you can plug a PS5 controller in and have all of those features on PC. It'll work as a controller on PC, but you won't get those features. So there's some semblance of sense to that methodology. The other reason is I think it'll bring the price down. So we were talking about this, like, why would you want to be tethered when you can have an untethered experience via Oculus Quest for what I'm assuming is going to be a very similar price? And you have to just say that, yeah, the power is one reason and the DualSense is the other. I do think it needs to come in cheaper than the Oculus Quest to be viable, because if it's more expensive than Quest, I'd still say, even having not seen this version of PlayStation VR, that you buy Quest, because removing that cable from your VR experience, and like you said, I've used Oculus Rift S, so their latest kind of tethered version. I've used the PlayStation VR, and had these like in my possession for weeks to actually like play with, and I've done Quest. Quest is the least powerful of them, and it's the best VR experience. Removing the cord changes the whole dynamic. And the Quest 2 that's out at the moment is more powerful with better screens than the Quest. So yeah, you're going to be hard pressed to sell that if it's not cheaper. The other pieces that you spoke about, Gran Turismo, neither here nor there. Like, fair enough, they've delayed it. I bet Horizon gets delayed as well. And yeah, I can't remember what the other thing you said was happening was, because
Days Gone to PC.
Oh, we knew that was going to start happening, like more Sony games to PC. Horizon's gone there already. Persona or Golden game, like really random stuff, but it's it's going to keep happening. And what was the last thing?
And just that they're bringing that play at home back.
Yeah, it's trash.
That's awesome.
It's trash
the
compared
free
to last
game
year's
for people.
offering, though. Like, last year's offering was ridiculous, and then this year it's like, you can have Ratchet that's already in the PlayStation Plus collection, and some weird animation experience, but we'll see how good it is. Like, yeah, great to do things for people for free.
I'm keen to play Ratchet and Clank. I'm excited to have that for free, so it'll be there when I get it. Just a quick question on the PS5. Can you know how the PS4 where you can put like a media folder in there for like your videos and you can watch like three. Yeah. Okay, Jamie knew exactly where I was going with this. Can you put 3D videos and stuff on your PS5 so when you get your new PSVR,
yes,
you can watch.
Yes. I know exactly what you're getting at, and yes is the answer. I'm pretty sure that's exactly how I demoed the original PSVR for you years ago.
Yeah, it's left a lasting impression.
Right, so well, let me change your impression, because Quest is even better.
Oh my god! Right,
way easier. You just open a friggin' web browser on that thing, boom, you're done. There's no file downloading or anything.
Go lay on your back.
VR porn. Bring us back on track.
I just wanted. I was just the only thing that I wanted to touch on was the Days Gone coming to PC. I feel like that a lot of people were really surprised. The fact that we already have Death Stranding and Horizon on PC, because they're both made in the same engine, I'm assuming like that's easier for that engine to port over, and Days Gone is on Unreal Engine, and so much is on Unreal Engine. So I feel like that was an obvious port. And then
I am listening, Dan. Keep going.
I know. I'm just delaying it till you can
I'm
put
on-
yourself
I'm
together.
on Dan's one because both me and Chunt are cracking up.
Yeah, very distracting. And then so yeah, the only thing I can think of games like Until Dawn, which was made in Horizon's engine as well. Like games like that slowly come, but you won't see the big ones. All right, well, let's move on to topic number 3. Big topic. Anthem is closing down. They're going to keep it running as is, but the team of 30 people that were working on it for just over a year to build it back up. EA had a meeting last week to determine the fate of whether to push forward with it or not, and they didn't. I probably don't have so much to say on Anthem as a game as a whole. I probably will about EA and Bioware, but Jamie, I know you have strong feelings about this game, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, I think it's a crying shame that they didn't get to rebuild it. Well, they did, yeah, but we're not going to see it. That's the shame. There was some like difference in context in the article that kind of half suggested that some of these changes that they've made may push to the game, but then they're not carrying on development, or does it just stay exactly as is? It doesn't get this update and just kind of hovers around the background. So I'd be keen to see some kind of clarification on that. I think it was really shitty of them to make Christian Daly write the post. How much of it he wrote, I have no idea, but it was really shitty to give it his name because he largely has come in, picked up, for all intents and purposes, a steaming pile of dog shit, polished it off, and started building on top of it. And some of the concepts that he's shown over the last year, even just some static images and tiny, like very small videos of the direction they were taking Anthem in, really had people kind of going, all right, we could have a No Man's Sky scenario here. We could have a Destiny scenario where they manage to pull everything together, and as I constantly say, give it its Taken King moment. And that's been taken away, and they made him deliver that message when we all knew he'd been pulled to Dragon Age. Like we know when Casey Hudson left that and Mike Dara left that he was put in charge of it. So yeah, I'm really disappointed that we don't get to see his vision of Anthem, because I think what was there was solid enough. The flying mechanics, the world, beautiful, absolutely stunning world to play in. It's just a shame that they had no story, no content, and no real reason to get you to play the game. That was the bit that was missing. They had everything else down. But yeah, sad times for Anthem and that team, but hopefully whatever they were doing and working on, we see some remnants of those ideas kind of show up either in Dragon Age or in Mass Effect.
Yeah. So speaking of Christian Daly, part of that quote that I pulled, he just said that I know this will be disappointing to the community of Anthem players who have been excited to see the improvements we've been working on. It's also disappointing for the team who were doing brilliant work. And for me personally, Anthem is what brought me to Bioware, and the last 2 years have been some of the most challenging and rewarding experiences of my career. Game development is hard. Decisions like these are not easy. Moving forward, we need to laser focus our efforts as a studio and strengthen the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect titles, while continuing to provide quality updates to Star Wars: The Old Republic. Chunt, based on that quote, and like, what are your feelings of Anthem? And to move us into the next topic, what are your thoughts as the live service genre and them kind of starting to pull out of it now?
Well, I'm salty that I backed the Legendary Edition, as I put my entitled tweet up after this was announced. I want my refund. Kind of post, like, tagging all the companies that are involved in the game, like, I didn't get anything out of this game that you promised, so I want my money back, kind of thing. I still want my money back. I'm not happy with it. The game, as Jamie said, the gameplay itself was the highlight, and the story and the world that they built or tried to build, but everything else was just loose at the seams. But at some point in life, you just have to realize when you need to cut your losses and move on, and that's exactly what they've done. To hopefully the benefit of their other franchises that they're working on, as they said, like, we kind of realized we've got bigger fish to fry here, and things that we're actually good at and known for. Let's just go back to that, which makes sense. And everyone had a big question mark over this game of like, why is BioWare doing a live service game? Like, it's not their strength, but you have to kind of give the benefit of the doubt, because there have been instances in the past where some developers have come out with a whole new game that they've never done before and succeeded. But funnily enough, they're never a live service, right? Like we've talked about this enough times, just even off recording or whatever, off the record, of just how many live service games are still around, or we keep hearing about the stories of these games that have failed. And you just need to look at Anthem as the pinnacle, and then Avengers is the other one, where one was an unknown risk, and Avengers was a known risk, right? Because Avengers' name is just a license to print money, and it should have been, and they screwed that up somehow. But we all know, if you've played it, we know how bad a lot of that game is. And I don't know how well it's improved since, so I've yet to play it recent times, but I just remember being wholeheartedly disappointed, and the rest of the world was too. And you have to imagine, like, if you can't get a live service working with a property like that, it's even more of a risk going into a new one, a new IP, where an unproven developer in that kind of genre. So, I mean, it's kind of like, what do? You kind of praise them for trying, because the industry is so risk adverse these days and trying new things. But then when they fail, like, everybody's so quick to pile on. But I am a little disenfranchised about the whole live service thing in general. I would be happy if it just wasn't a thing going forward. Like, new games would just focus on giving us a solid experience, which Outriders, you guys talked about at the top of the show. Outriders should lend itself very well to that model. I always thought it was, until recently, when the latest news was like, it's not a live service, it's got no weekly resets, it's got no blah blah blah, all this crap that I hate in these type of games. That turned me off those games completely. So I was instantly going, all right, I'm keen to give this a go, because whatever's in the game is in the game. I'm not going to miss anything. I can get it all in there. It's like the games I used to play. You know, that's appealing to me. And I'd like to see if the whole industry would just be like, all right, we tried for an entire generation, you know, to try to put our toe in the water for all this stuff. And you just look at the bodies, you know, the bodies around it. It's like, all right, let's just walk away and go back to what we know works. So cool. Yeah, live services can go to hell for all I'm concerned. I know there's fans like Jamie. I know, like, it's kind of your go-to type of experience where there's the rotation and loot systems and reasons to keep coming back and all that kind of stuff. But I don't care for it, you know. I really don't. There's a reason why I'm playing a Wii U port right now, you know, and I bought some 360 games. Like, why am I doing that? Why am I not kind of just keeping invested in new games that are coming out? I won't look favorably at this generation at all, like the Xbox One, PS4 generation. That I'm not going to look back in history going, yeah, that was a fucking awesome generation. Not at all. But anyway, that's my rant. I'm going to stop before I keep going any longer.
That's right. Jamie, do you have anything to add about the live service part of it?
Anthem, yeah, they promised too much at the outset and they couldn't deliver on it. So not being able to deliver on their promise wrecked the image instantly. I mean, if you actually cast back to when that game came out, it came out and it was relatively well received for that the 30-second loop, right? This game feels fun to play. You know, shoot, reload, repeat, next monster, next enemy, progress. Like, they had the gameplay loop down. And the thing that fucked them was the whole live service model and how they couldn't deliver to it. They set out that plan on day one, they launched, and they were like, look, right, next month you get part 1 of chapter whatever they were calling it, or act 2 chapter 1, or whatever the way they'd structured this was. It led you up, it was like 3 months, and then it leads into this Cataclysm event, which is the stuff that we saw in that kind of, looking back at it now, incredibly false and fake trailer that they showed for the game, when it's like the Shape of Storm starts to happen and it's like, right, we're heading into the Cataclysm, and it's like, this should have been an epic kind of progress to an event, similar to in Destiny, where you build your progress into the raid. The raid never comes out day one with new content. It's always a week, 2 weeks, maybe sometimes out, and you build to it. The narrative builds to it, and then there's your big boss. You go take him down in the raid. So they misstepped everywhere. And live services do keep getting this wrong, which is why something like Outriders, it does make you. And don't get me wrong, right? If Outriders is a roaring success, and I don't know how much of a roaring success it's going to be, but I do, off the back of playing the demo and seeing the feedback online, believe it probably will be a success. If it is a roaring success and what they do with the rest of the game becomes very good and people are into it, they will turn it into a pseudo live service. It just won't be the whole weekly reset thing. I think I've told you guys this. They've already committed to, look, if it's received well, we will start planning a DLC expansion or a sequel. So either way, it is, as Chunt said, tailored to that type of an experience, but it's just how deep you go with it. Like, I'm all for these games, like even with Anthem, they didn't need to make a live service. What they needed to do was give you the story, which it felt like, Chunt, you did get to the end of the story, I think.
I did, yeah.
You played, that to me felt like you played chapter 1, right?
Mm.
So I don't want a live service or anything like that. What I want is literally nothing other than, I now want to go and play chapter 2. And to do that, okay, yeah, you build a couple of small pieces over a month or two, and here we are at chapter 2. Let's do that. And so on and so forth. So it's a shame, but what happened. Unfortunately. And you two have just returned, so I managed to drag that conversation out long enough to keep the recording going. What is going on?
Discord.
Having fun and games tonight.
Mm. Yep.
So my only thoughts on like the live service part of it, and Chunt, you kind of touched upon it, where, you know, they're talking about like the whole industry's kind of risk adverse, right? But EA creating a live service game because all these other live service games are doing well is not taking a risk. It's just trying to chase the money. Sometimes I feel like, I know some games are going to be harder to sell to people, but the whole point is that you make a product and then you get the people that are marketing the game to do their job and market the game to the audience that they want. Like, it's not just, it feels like sometimes with EA that they're doing the reverse. They're like, okay, what's a game that's easy for us to market, and then let's just make that game. And therefore you don't get creativity out of that. You don't eventually get what you want. But speaking of moving forward, this leading into Bioware's future, there was an article from Jason Schreier that came out talking about Dragon Age, and quote, Dragon Age had previously been designed with a heavy multiplayer component in recent months. A heavy multiplayer component. In recent months, it transformed into a single-player only game after EA was stunned by a recent multiplayer flop. EA, which in recent years pushed almost all of its games to include online components that can be monetized following their releases, Chief Executive Officer Andrew Wilson called this trend, known as games as a service, as, quote, fundamental to our future in a 2019 interview with GameDaily.biz. The diverging trajectories of two recent games changed the minds of Wilson and the other executives at EA. According to The People, one was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a single-player game released in November 2019 that outperformed EA sales expectations, reaching more than 10 million players in its first 4 months. The second was Bioware's Anthem, a multiplayer game that was widely panned when it launched. The games showed the single-player game. The two games showed that single-player games could be lucrative, and that Bioware, traditionally known for its single-player role-playing games, might be better off returning to its roots. It's amazing after all this time that they're like, oh, you know that studio we have that makes these legendary games. Literally, they're releasing Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition. Why don't we get them to go back to making those type of games, you know, that made us money and people were really happy about? I was saying to you guys yesterday, I think management is getting so important with some of these bigger AAA studios, and the lack of management in games like Cyberpunk, or in having Bioware take the Anthem direction, is just incredibly depressing, because we don't get better games out of it. We get games that are okay. Like, same thing with Avengers. It's like, how good's this game? It's like, well, it's okay, but it's not putting the people that you hired there to do the thing that they're good at. It's trying to make do with what you got to make something that's so. And yeah, that's just
There's a
incredibly
reason that
depressing.
Andrew Wilson is one of the most hated men in the video game industry. He is the forefather of all of this bullshit. The adopting of the live service moniker. I know that you can probably level that at Destiny as being the first game to come in and do it, but it didn't first start out with loot boxes. It was expansions. It was following the World of Warcraft model. But Andrew Wilson popularized loot boxes. He is the forefather of FIFA Ultimate Team, which is where all the shitty shenanigans started, and it is why he's in the position that he's in, because he made EA a crap ton of money. I think it is actually dubbed like the Wilson effect, or the Wilson box, or something like that. Like, he's a sketchy dude. And if we think back to cast your eye back to Mythic Quest, he is Danny Pudi's character in Mythic Quest, quite literally. And I think that is maybe where they drew the inspiration. It's like the guy that sat there that's going, I can put anything in this game and some knobhead will buy it. And he's just turned the whole of EA into that. And it is depressing. It is sad. But hopefully it's a new era for BioWare, right? I know we've sat on this topic for a while, but hopefully, I mean, Casey Hudson's gone, Mark Darrah's gone. Is it even BioWare anymore? Like, how many of the original BioWare team are still there? I hedge my bets that not very many at all. Christian Daly seems like a very competent studio lead, so let's see if he can deliver on that at BioWare, and that Dragon Age kind of does follow in the footsteps of Inquisition, because it did really well. Not by magic. Like, it was everybody thought it was going to flop from the inside. They wanted it to, because of the EA the BioWare magic.
Yeah.
Chan, have you played Dragon Age? And what are your hopes for BioWare? And do you think EA's going to blink? Like, what if BioWare releases something not that is great? How long will EA stay this course of going back to making single player games?
Oh, I just think the quote is funny, of like, we realize single player experiences can still be lucrative. It's like, well, bullshit. Like, how many far out, like, the games industry has been built upon that, you know, way back. We talked about it last week with Pong and Mario. Like, they kind of set the standard for what games are as far as home releases, and ever since then it's just been constant. The biggest game franchises you can think of, like Zelda, are single player experiences. You know, like, at what point did you not remember that? Like, I understand there's microtransactions, and you know, they want that kind of effect that James was talking about, where it's just a constant cash flow coming through from the whales people, that they call them, the people with money that keep buying this shit. And at some point you just have to realize, well, we're focusing on a niche, and that small group of people, because it's a small group of people that have money that keep supporting this shit. And unfortunately, a whole bunch of other people that can't control themselves, you know, because of gambling and addictions and stuff like that. It's a real thing that they're preying on. You know, there's people out there with actual, like, mental problems and gambling problems that keep buying this shit, and they're just preying on that group of people. And you just have to go, well, we're going to, like, drain these people dry eventually. And it's starting to happen, you know, and people are starting to pull back, realizing it's, like, destroying lives and stuff like that. It might not sound like it at the top, where you go, oh, this game has microtransactions, whatever, but depending on how addictive that is, it's going to destroy someone out there. And it's a known, proven fact, like, when you look into it. But anyway, yeah, single player experiences. You look at Sony's roster; they're just the test bed or the proven test bed of like, yes, single player experiences are still lucrative. I can't remember the last Sony first party game that's been chock filled with microtransactions. Like, I remember God of War Ascension had a multiplayer aspect to it, and both parts of that game were crap. Like the story campaign was forgettable, and the multiplayer was crap. So every other game in God of War has been fantastic as a single player experience. You've had like challenge towers and stuff like that, but that's different. That's just expanding on the game that already exists. But I just have to laugh. Like, just EA, man, they're just the problem. Besides like Activision, and I try to vote with my wallet in a lot of these things. I don't buy a lot of EA and Activision games. I refuse to, as well as Ubisoft. The last EA game I bought besides Anthem was Squadrons and Jedi Fallen Order, and they were on like heavy sales, because I refused to give them all my money. So yeah, I hope this just harkening back to what I said previously is I hope this new generation kind of ushers in a lot more focus and better experiences as far as single player games goes. Mass Effect coming out is another beacon of hope because those games are so beloved, and the multiplayer in Mass Effect 3 wasn't really anything to call home about either. And it was just like an add-on. And when they said, yeah, we're leaving the multiplayer out for this legendary edition, it's like, who gives a shit? Like, whatever. I'm done. I can rant on.
Yeah. Well, the vote with your wallet thing is really important, I feel, when Dragon Age is going to come out, which I don't think is going to come out for another like 3 years at this rate, with a lot of the movement happening there. But I feel like it's kind of a last gasp for Bioware at this point, and that's going to be a game where you kind of do, if you really want these games around with EA, you kind of do have to vote for your wallet. That's why I got Fallen Order, because I'm like, you're not doing loot boxes and shit. So I'm like, all right, I'll put down money on this. And it seems like a lot of people did, and that's how they paid attention to it. But yeah, I think it's kind of a last gasp. Before I move on, Jamie, is there anything more you want to add about BioWare or Dragon Age
you
specifically?
are way too optimistic with how long they're going to give them to make that game. Dragon Age will be out Q1 of 2023 at the absolute latest.
Q1.
Dragon Age, Q1 2023. I know they're saying that there's been heavy rework to turn it back into a single player game, but that probably just means that they've stripped out the multiplayer bullshit and the microtransactions. Probably doesn't mean that the story or the engine or anything like that is changing wildly. I think if the pandemic hadn't happened, it was probably due at the end of this year.
All right. Well, we'll see. Lastly, there's a little thing that happened this morning, which I didn't really get around to. So I'm going to leave this floor open to you boys. Jamie, do you want to introduce the Pokemon section of this podcast?
There was a lot of plosives happening, right? Pokemon section of podcast. Yeah, they had a special event for their birthday. They're 25, which makes me feel old. That's crazy that it's been around for 25 years. Look, the videos are there, the directs there. People go watch it. Skip the first 15 minutes. First 15 minutes, a load of marketing nonsense and rubbish and stuff we already know about. The last 10 minutes were all about a brilliant diamond and shining pearl. Surely they could have come up with better names than that. Let's be honest. Gen 4 is my favorite gen. I actually genuinely do think it just supplants Gold and Silver.
You genuinely do.
As my favorite. I'm not keen on the art style. I will say that it looks very chibi, and those games are quite dark in tone, so that's a bit weird. There's a chibi art style and a dark tone. Yeah, they don't really go together that well, but I think it's probably because they've taken a lot of the maps and the world sprites and stuff like that and just spruced them up a little bit, as opposed to, building it from the ground up for Switch. It's more of a remaster in that sense, but I'm really excited for that. The thing that the internet's going wowzers and crazy about, though, is Legends, which is something that has actually been built for the Switch and is changing up the formula of how these games play for the first time in 25 years. It looks like a genuine improvement. The battle simulations seem less kind of stagnated and lacking animation, to the fact where you actually see your 3D sprite go and attack another 3D sprite. And they seem to have taken some of the mechanics from the Let's Go games in terms of actually catching Pokemon. We see your character kind of crouch down, like in the wilderness, throwing Pokeballs at Pokemon. So I think that dream that we all had when we were like 10 years old is finally being realized, and they're doing something to transform the games. There was no mention of sort of gyms, etc. in this, so I wonder how they address that, because it's set in the past. I think that's why they're giving it the moniker of Legends. It's set way before, in the olden times. It's all about Arceus, and a lot of even Arceus's movie, I think it was the 11th movie, was all centered around kind of going back in time and kind of the discovery of the god kind of figure in the world. So it looks really, really cool. If that's what they managed to do as kind of a stopgap, I can only imagine that the next full generation is going to be built like that. And that would be kind of wild, especially if you get Australia as your region, which is wild, largely rumored. But yeah, Chunt, you any thoughts or thinking? You seen that?
Yeah, I watched it before I made my coffee this morning, and man, I was surprised. I expected another disappointment. Because I remember seeing the notification of, there's a Nintendo Pokemon Direct thingy happening at 1 a.m. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be up for that. Because it's just been disappointing for every other time they've come up. But yeah, I was watching it going, wow, this is cool. I thought of you straight away when it's like the Diamond Pearl thing. I'm like, oh, Jamie's getting the thing he wants. Oh, that's cool. But I don't like the chibi style as well, I'll admit. Like, I like the Let's Go game where you're like full scale dude was running around the world. I really like that. I don't know why they didn't do that again, but whatever. I guess it's a kid's game. It's not for me, you know. I mean, we do have appreciation for it because we grew up with it, but there's new generations of kids that are more targeted to it. And like my nieces and nephews and stuff, they all dug those kind of games. So, I'll separate myself from that a bit. But I think it's awesome, man. Like what they're doing with this Diamond Pearl thing. Yeah, the name's a bit cringe, but it's great to see these games getting a new life. And there's so many of them, fan favorite ones, and Game Boy games that are stuck on those Game Boys. You can emulate the shit out of things, but they actually have these popular games, or the games that like defined a generation, like literally, of this type of franchise. It's good to see them get new life on newer hardware, and for old fans and new alike, and relive them. I don't know if I'll be picking that one up because I don't really have much of an association to it, right? I'm a Gen 1er. I'm the OG kind of crowd, and Let's Go Pikachu was kind of my kind of nostalgia hit for that. And even that wasn't really exactly what I wanted, but I still enjoyed it just the same. But that new game, Legends, I was like, well, hello, what is this? Set in the olden Japan time, I don't know what exactly century it's going to be set in, but it's not real world, so I don't know why I'm thinking about that. But anyway, it's real to someone out there. But what really kind of piqued my interest was at the start of the trailer where you've got the old like manuscript type book, the Japanese writing. I assume it's Japanese writing, all the kanji and stuff, and the old school kind of Pokeball with this fancy lock on it. I was like, oh, what is this? Like even that had me kind of, yes, what is this? It's like a steampunk also, but not kind of old school.
It's like the fastener on a briefcase.
Yeah, exactly right. And I was like, oh, this looks sick already. And then it's like this massive open experience. And as you said, like you're catching the Pokemon in real time without having a battle, to kick their ass until they're a little red niche in their health bar, and then you throw a ball at them. It's just like the anime, right? Like Ash is like, oh, look at that thing. I throw a ball at it, and he gets it. So it's like Let's Go, the same mechanic. So I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of appreciate Let's Go now a bit more, because it's obviously planting the seeds. And Sword and Shield was like almost like an experiment to me of, can we can we do this and see if people like it? Because we're making a proper one, a big open world game for it. And yes, the battle system. Oh my God. That was one of my main gripes on these kind of Japanese RPGs, where you were walking around an overworld and then you get stripped right out of it and you put into this little combat scenario. And by the time you're done with the match, sometimes you come out and you're like, all right, where was I again? Like, what was I doing? And the recent Final Fantasy games have done away with that. And it's great because you're just in the moment as it happens, bam, bam, you kill the thing and you keep going on your quest. And finally, Pokemon's doing that. And that's what I've wanted for so long, like me and many millions of others. And that really pleased me this morning. I was like, yes, I want this. I haven't bought a Pokemon game since Let's Go Pikachu. And before then was X on 3DS, I've just not been invested or interested in any other iteration. But this one, I can say right now, I'm going to be there day one. It looks freaking awesome. I want to know more about it. It's something new and exciting. So yeah, sign me the hell up, man.
Do you think they're coming out very close together?
No.
They are coming out close together.
No, but it doesn't matter though. Like, it's kind of two different crowds.
How close is close? For those that didn't watch it.
So, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The worst names ever. They're coming out fall this year. Well, it said late. It didn't say fall. It said late 2021. So I'm imagining keeping in the last few Pokemon releases, we're looking at November. And then it says early 2022 for the Legends game.
That's all right. What's wrong with that?
It's like a 2-month wait between mainline Pokemon games. That's wild.
Well, I mean,
early could be March, like March to November. Like you would have got your hit out of the November.
True, but I am also still playing through Sword and Shield that came out in 2019 because it's taken me 6 attempts to actually get a dent in the game.
Well, one's a remake, right? And the other one is a legit new game.
True, so... yeah, there is that element. But then I think back to Omega Ruby and Alpha Ruby, Omega and Alpha, whatever the fuck they were, which way around they were.
Naming conventions.
Yeah, Ruby and Sapphire remakes. There was a good chunk of time between the Ruby and Sapphire remakes and the next Pokemon game. But alas, yeah, they're doing things over at the Pokemon Company.
Yeah, they are.
Good. Yeah, it's good we all have input on that. I wanted to bring up one last thing. Then I thought of you, Chunt, during all of this. Oh. There was two movie/TV video game news this week. One was that the Halo TV series is back on production after some COVID delays,
and also 16 years of development hell.
And 16 years of development hell. As well as Instagram post by your man Henry Cavil reading some type of document with Mass Effect tech on it. What do you think it is? What would bring the most tingles to the nether regions?
Oh man, just anything. Like, just put him in something, even if it's like his face on the game cover. I'll buy it. Like, yeah. Well, I'm not that easy. Got to work up to these things. But yeah, I would say yes. Just saying. But man, I just do it, man. Go put him in anything. Like, he's a gamer, right? He's like the perfect man. He plays games. He's like genetically gifted in every kind of way. He's a gentleman, very well spoken. He's well liked. Yeah, as some reports to say he's hard to work with, but maybe he's just a goddamn professional, and he loves his work that he does. And I'm not defending someone. I have no idea who they are. But anyway,
he is British.
It's just a man crush. Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, it's instantly charming. But man, if he becomes like, I don't know, there's no way in hell they're going to replace Shepard in this Legendary Edition, right? Because that would just piss the shit out of so many fans. Would I love it? Yes. If I could play through the game as Shepard with Henry Cavill's voice in my ear, I would play that. But what is this? Is this just like a narrator gig? Is it a trailer that's coming out for the game, or is there something extra in this Legendary Edition that's coming out where they need some narration for it and Henry Cavill is there? I don't know. Is there a live action thing happening? Is it like a TV series that's happening for Mass Effect that we don't know about? He's got precedent there with The Witcher. I'm just kind of really plucking at things here. And you've got the Star Citizen game, the offshoot game that hasn't come out yet, where that he's in. His face and likeness and voice are in that game. I just, it could be so many things. Even if it's a movie, fuck, I'll be down for that too. Just put him in anything. I said a few podcasts ago when we were talking about similar kind of casting things for games that I said to put Henry Cavill in everything, and here we go. It's happening.
Jamie, I know you're not the biggest fan of Henry.
Yep, we need to caveat that I'm not the biggest fan of him in Superman or The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, let's just end this podcast now.
And and those I'm sorry, he can't act in either of those films. The Witcher markedly improved, massively.
Yeah,
such an improvement in The Witcher, because one, he had good content to work with, and two, I think the character type suits him a lot better. As to what you do with him in Mass Effect, I've got no idea. I think it's probably a voice for the new game, because it's not just like Bioware have all just moved on to Dragon Age, right? There's a team working on Dragon Age and a team working on Mass Effect. I think he's likely going to be a voice in Mass Effect. I don't see a TV show or a movie or anything like that, because think about this franchise, right?
Yeah.
This franchise, on the back of Andromeda, is in the dirt. And on the back of, before that, the reception to the ending of 3. This franchise has got some building blocks to start putting back in place before they start even thinking about TV's deals and movie deals or animations or anything like that. We were talking last week about Destiny doing it. Like, they've got a stable base to build from with that type of stuff. In Mass Effect, I really don't think they have. So yeah, I think it'll be a voice role in the new Mass Effect game for me. And the Halo stuff, yeah, finally. I think I've asked you this before, Dan. Is Spielberg still attached?
Yeah, his production company is. I don't know how attached Steven Spielberg is to a lot of.
Well, Spielberg originally announced this TV show the same time they announced the original Xbox One.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for it. It was supposed to go onto that. What was it? Not the Halo Network. What was it called? Like the Halo Channel thing on Xbox.
Halo Channel, yeah.
Yeah.
Where that series
that was a different time.
Did you ever watch that series, Chunt? The one that had the guy that was eventually then in Luke Cage, was it? Was he Luke Cage?
Nightfall.
Yeah. Did you watch it? Like the 12-episode series?
Yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't bad.
Overly forgettable experience, but yeah.
Yeah.
He was good, though. Michael Coulter, or whatever his name is. He was good. I like him.
Yeah. So let's see what they can do when they're actually using Master Chief in a TV program.
Yeah. Or that other series they did, what's the Fallen...
The Fall of the Covenant, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Like that other live action one where Master Chief actually turns up.
That was sick. That was really good. Like just seeing him on like in anything live action, that was awesome. Although I bet that suit was hot as balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only found it. I knew that they were going to be putting the Halo TV show in production, but I didn't realize it actually had hit production. And then I looked up the guy that was playing Master Chief, and I think they announced that they're actually bringing in Cortana's actual voice actress to be Cortana. They had someone else differently in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, in the Henry Cavill stuff, if they did do a movie, I think Saren would be great for him, because Cavill's good when he's just this unstoppable force. In the Mission Impossible movies, or
when he doesn't
Superman
have to talk.
Oh God!
So I think he'd be good with that. But I think on the sheet, it didn't. From the way it read on the sheet, it doesn't look like a script or anything. It looks more like either like a treatment or just documentation. And it mentioned Cerberus and Tali Zoral, and what was the other one? There's a couple of other things that it mentioned. So it could be the next video game, because I think we forget that there's actually quite a few bigger bigger actors in that game. Like the fact that in Mass Effect 2 we get Martin Sheen just being the Elusive Man, like that. Like thinking back on it now, I'm like, holy shit! Like that, what a get! And having Seth Green as
Joker.
Joker, like they always did pull in people. So if as you were saying, Chunt, Henry Cavill builds his PCs with his multiple arms coming out of his arms. I can imagine they'd go to him for just a little voice part. That makes sense.
Oh man, put him in Mass Effect 4 for God's sakes. You know, maybe that's what it is.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what we both just said. Did that just register?
Well, I thought you meant the new Mass Effect like legendary thing that's coming out. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
How are they going to do that? But yeah, Mass Effect 4. Sorry, I'm just catching up.
That's okay.
Fangirl talk.
I said Henry Cavil, and you went spiraling.
Yeah, all flustered. Oh.
All right. Well, thank God we got through to the podcast eventually, boys. It was a long anticipated wait, but we got there.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me. We will be here again next week, hopefully with some more news, some exciting news, and yeah,
and less Discord hiccups.
Yeah, fucking Discord.
Power
Sort shit out, man.
Everything else has tried to stop us in our wake.
Yep.
Sign us off, Jamie.
Look at them hands. Look at them hands. Wash them.
Spirit fingers.